E aí, beleza, bem-vindo, what's good, what's up, and welcome to the Brazilian podcast, the unofficially named How to Live in Brazil podcast, the survival guide brought to you by our comunidade, our community, on the top tips, the best things, the do's and don'ts when it comes to being in Brazil. I'm your host, Stephen, from West London, Ladbroke Grove, home of the third best carnival in the world, the Notting Hill Carnival. And I'm reporting live from the home of the first and second best carnivals in the world, Brazil. So obviously the first and second are Rio de Janeiro and second place, Salvador Bahia. Or you can reverse that order if you want. It depends on who you are. I'm not here to judge, I'm just saying. So my initial reasons for making this podcast was to create a communidade, a community of expats, foreigners, non-natives, as well as Brazilians, natives, people from South America, to be able to connect together to create a sort of survivor's guide, a do's and don'ts, the top tips and series of recommendations that we could use together to have a much more tranquilo and favorable experience of being here in Brazil. I've been here for a few years, and one of the things that I realized very early on is that Brazil kind of moves in a way of osmosis. You learn things as you go on. You pick up tips as you go on. So one of the things that happened to me a few times was someone would say, "Oh, you haven't done this yet," and "Wow, you haven't even done that yet." And I'd be like, "Well, yeah, of course not," or "I didn't even know about it." So a lot of things that you do come from recommendations, and my phone's going off now, which is annoying. So a lot of things happen through recommendations that you either have to just be completely a part of or get lucky. So it just depends on who you know. And it also depends on how much Portuguese you speak as well. What are the experiences of Brazilians living here with non-natives? How do they really feel about foreigners? What would they like to say to foreigners if they had the opportunity? Like I said, this comunidade is not just one way. It's not just us looking at them and making comparisons to where we're originally from. It also comes the other way round, because that's important too. It's important to be welcomed, not just to feel welcomed, if that makes sense. Of course, we'll make comparisons with the Western world and have some deep conversations with some Brazilians and non-natives and foreigners who have come here, who've experienced things, and vice versa, because this is an open dialogue. You should be part of this comunidade because you're going to get true, authentic insight into living here. Not just the sexy parts, not just the stereotypical parts, not just talking about the violence and the dangers. You're going to get the politics, the economics of the country, the culture within the cultures. If you're someone who is interested in coming here or has been here, you can get a lot from this. This is a survival guide, like I mentioned before, but it's also a place of free speech. This is a space where you can kind of be safe to say whatever you want and not be judged. And I say that because obviously we're going to hear from you. You are part of this comunidade. What you have to say is just as important as everything that I'm saying now, if not more important. So, we need to bear that in mind. We'll be joined by some veterans, some people who have been here for a long time, a bit like myself, and much longer. Some Brazilians. Obviously, we're going to be speaking English, but you're going to learn a lot of Portuguese along the way. It doesn't make sense to be in this part of the world and not speak pouquinho de Portuguese. So you will get it when you get it. We'll be recording twice a week, so episodes, look out for those to be coming out 2 times a week. Right now it's scheduled for Wednesdays and Sundays. But vamos ver, let's see how that continues. Again, this is the unofficially named podcast at the moment. But I think we're probably going to try and stick with this name. So just to say that as we continue along with these episodes, I definitely, it is important. I cannot stress this enough that we hear from you. So please leave your comments, write your questions, give your own tips, your own recommendations. All right, communidade, just before we sign off, just want to remind you that this is something that if you stumbled across, it might not be for you right now, even though I believe that everybody and their aunt should visit Brazil at some stage in their life, and this could really help them. But if this is something that you might feel could be quite useful for someone that you know, share it with them. Support us in making this even better. Because who knows, there's never any limit to something like this. Send in your recommendations for subjects that we could talk about. Like I said, qualquer assunto, whatever subject it can be, it would probably be very helpful. And tell us what you think. Share, subscribe, like. If you can like it, that would be great. Really appreciate that. And just want to say obrigado. Até logo. Thank you. See you next time. And peace.